To India now, where national elections are taking place. Now, as the world's largest democracy, India holds the vote in phases across several weeks to allow the country's nearly 1 billion voters to participate. Millions of people are casting their ballots today across 95 constituencies in the third phase of the election. There are a total of 7 phases that will be completed by June 1st. Now, a key issue in this election is youth unemployment. It's a growing problem because India has one of the world's largest youth populations. Half of its 1.4 billion people are under the age of 30. Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised millions of jobs when he first came to power in 2014. But during the last decade, he's largely failed to deliver. Now, as he tries to lead the ruling BJP party to a rare third term, the question is, do voters believe he'll get the job done? We'll talk to our Delhi correspondent, Shalu Yadev, about that in just a moment. But first, she reports on the young people who are feeling left behind in Modi's India.
Desperate times force Kuldeep Yadev to take desperate decisions. He's a university graduate with a manufacturing diploma. But after searching for years, the only job he could find was at this flea market in Delhi, where he's now a salesman.
I've been selling clothes here for a year. I'm not happy doing this job. It doesn't match my qualifications, but I have to do it to survive. There are just no jobs available. We expected that this government would give us jobs. We got nothing.
India's educated under-30s are desperate, and very publicly so. LinkedIn is a window into India's unemployment crisis, which is particularly acute amongst the young and the educated. According to a recent report by International Labour Organization, more than 80% of those unemployed in India are youth. In fact, their chances of being jobless are even higher if they're educated, 9 times higher than those who are illiterate. Around 8 million young Indians enter the job market annually, which is already oversaturated. All that many find is disappointment.
The youth unemployment is in the region of 42%. So that's perhaps the highest youth unemployment rates in the world.
Economist Santosh Mehrotra says that India may be the world's fastest growing major economy, but it hasn't been able to take its youth along. One big reason, manufacturing, which creates lots of jobs in other developing economies, still isn't booming in India.
You find that young people have no hesitation about, trying to illegally migrate into the United States. Secondly, they're looking for work in the ex-Soviet Union, in the Russia-Ukraine war. They've even attempted to go to Israel to do construction work on the front lines because Palestinian workers have been thrown off on account of the Gaza war that has been going on. So it's grim, it's very serious.
Bada soche. Think big.
Over the last 10 years in office, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called India's youth the driving force for growth and promised millions of new jobs. Those promises ring hollow to young Indians like Kuldeep, who've studied hard but feel like they're not a part of India's growth story.
What happened to your promise of offering millions of jobs? The country's future is made of its youth. If the youth itself is in a deep ditch, how will the economy go forward?
Despite the disappointment, he hasn't given up his search for a job he knows he deserves. And he'll vote, he says, for educated leaders to shape India's future.
And we can get more from DW correspondent Shalu Yadev, who's in Delhi and who filed that report for us. Shalu, young voters are saying unemployment is their main worry. So are their concerns and their aspirations, as we heard there in your report, are they reflected in this election?
Well, their concerns, Anya, are not so much reflected in the election campaigning by the ruling BJP party, which is led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But the opposition parties have been highlighting and putting a spotlight on the fact that the youth of this country have been suffering for years because there just hasn't been enough job creation for them. Some of the youth that I spoke to while gathering for this report, I sensed that there was a real sense of dejection and hopelessness amongst them. They were forced to pick up menial jobs despite their higher educative qualifications. Some were graduates, postgraduates. Some even had a technical diploma under their belt, and yet they were found selling vegetables and juice by the roadside and mobile SIM cards. And some have decided to just help their family with farming business. So that gives you a sense of how the situation is on the ground as far as youth unemployment is concerned. But interestingly, even as they are so disillusioned with the ruling BJP party, some of them said that they will still vote for them because they just don't have a stronger alternative in Indian politics.
So is it the BJP party they blame for these levels of high youth unemployment?
Yes, they do blame the BJP party because they have been in power for the last 10 years, and it did come to power, and one of its biggest promises in 2014 before it came to power was that it's going to create millions of jobs for the youth of the country. The Prime Minister, in fact, has repeated these promises time and again in his speeches in the last 10 years, but that hasn't matched the results on the ground. He told the youngsters back then that they're going to be the driving force of the engine of the Indian economy, that's going to take the Indian economy to ever newer heights. But that hasn't seemed to have happened. The youngsters say that we are not a part of India's growth story. India may have become, the world's largest major, fastest growing economy. Too many numbers in there. But they say that they are not reaping the benefits out of that, really, Anya.
OK, and is there any sense that the BJP is now going to start taking this issue seriously? It's going to start addressing the issue? Because, as you said, they've been in power for 10 years and not a lot has happened.
Yes, we put this exact question to one of the spokespersons of the ruling BJP party in Delhi, who politely declined to answer this question. His reason was that he feared that international media often misconstrues their point of view. So that tells you whether they are ready to address this issue or not. Like many experts say that the Prime Minister in his election rallies hasn't really focused on the issue of unemployment, although the party's manifesto does say that if they are voted back to power for a third term, they're going to be creating more jobs in sectors like aviation, railways, and in infrastructure. But on the ground, when they are campaigning for elections, their focus has been on the Hindu majoritarian sector of this country, which forms 80% of the population. There's been veiled attack on the Muslim minorities of this country. The Prime Minister in his election rallies have called them infiltrators and people who produce more kids. So some say that these kind of issues, the religious pandering, is a deviation from the real issues that are affecting people in their day-to-day lives, like inflation and unemployment. Now it remains to be seen whether the youth of this country will vote on religious grounds or on the real issues on the ground that affects them, like unemployment.
Shalu, thanks so much for bringing us up to date. That's DW correspondent Shalu Yadev in Delhi.